Hello everyone, welcome to 10-Minute Physiology. In today's video, we're going to talk about surfactant and surface tension. So with that, let's give it a go. So remember that our lungs are in our chest cavity, and the chest cavity is surrounded by the chest wall. In between the lung and the chest wall, you have the pleural sac. And the pleural sac is like a balloon that's filled with fluid, and inside you have the intrapleural space. The intrapleural space is going to be characterized by the filling of fluid, so fluid is filling the entire space, and there's also going to be a pressure called the intrapleural pressure. Now let's just assume that the barometric pressure is 0 centimeters of water, and from that we can see the intrapleural pressure. Now what we see here in a standing person is that the intrapleural pressure is greatest at the bottom and lowest at the top. And the reason why is because if the person is standing, the lungs are being pulled towards the diaphragm, which increases the pressure at the bottom and decreases the pressure at the top. Now, what would happen to the intrapleural pressure if we were to decrease or destroy the integrity of the pleural sac? So in other words, what if we were to rupture it? And we can rupture it by stabbing this pleural sac with a large needle. Now, when we do this, air will flow from the atmosphere into the intrapleural space, which will cause the pressure inside the intrapleural space to equal that of the atmosphere, 0 centimeters of water. This would lead to the lungs collapsing. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to insert a chest pump into this person and start removing the air. And when we do so, we're going to decrease the pressure inside the intrapleural space. And what we're going to do is we're going to see how much pressure is required before the lung starts to inflate again. And we can do that by looking at this graph here. So on this graph, on the y-axis, we have the lung volume, and on the x-axis, we have the intrapleural pressure. And when we start removing air from the person, we get a curve like this. So this curve is called the inflationary curve. So we start off with a lung volume here, and what we see here is that it takes quite a bit of air removal, or quite a significant pressure drop, before the lungs start to inflate again. And this is, remember, starting from that collapsed state. Now, if we were to compare this to the deflationary curve or limb, the deflationary curve or limb looks at a lung that is not completely collapsed. So it's starting from a lung that is completely filled, and then as we increase the intrapleural pressure, we see that the lung volume starts to decrease. But the lung volume decreases at a faster rate than the inflationary curve does, and it does so, and it also increases volume at a faster rate than the inflationary curve does. So the difference between these two curves is hysteresis, and the main thing that accounts for this difference is actually going to be surfactant levels. So the surfactant production is going to decrease when we collapse the lung in on itself. So as a result, as we're going to see in this video, when we decrease surfactant production, this is going to increase the surface tension. And when we increase the surface tension, this decreases the compliance of the lungs. And when we decrease the compliance of the lungs, this makes it harder for the lungs to expand. That's why it takes a greater pressure drop for a completely collapsed lung to increase pressure than it does for a non-completely collapsed lung, as we see with the deflationary curve. Now, what if we were to fill the lung with saline? And we'll see why we're doing this in a little bit. Well, if we were to fill the lung with saline, the inflationary curve would look like this, and the deflationary curve would look like this. Now, what you should notice is that if we fill these lungs with saline, the hysteresis produced is minimal. And the reason why is because when we fill these lungs with saline, we remove something called the air-water interface. And when we do this, this decreases the surface tension. And when we decrease the surface tension, this increases the compliance. So what we're going to do is we're going to spend the rest of this video describing what this paragraph means. So in order to understand what this paragraph means, you have to understand what the air-water interface is. So let's just say you have water, and this water has, of course, a surface. Now above the surface you have air, and below the surface you have more water. And the surface is also called the air-water interface. Now, as you know, water is a polar molecule. It has both a partial positive and a partial negative end. The partial positive end is near the hydrogens, and the partial negative end is at the oxygen. So it is a polar molecule. Now, because it's a polar molecule, it can be attracted to other water molecules. And we can see this through the different water molecules. So let's focus in on a water molecule that's below the surface. Below the surface, the water molecule is actually going to be attracted equally in all directions. This means that the net force acting upon this water molecule is 0. Now, if we were to compare the net force of a water molecule below the surface to a molecule at the surface, it would actually look a little different. Because if we look at the surface water molecules, the forces acting on it are actually a little bit different. So what we see here is that although these water molecules have forces acting upon it at the horizontal direction and in the vertical direction, there is no force acting upon it in the positive y direction as we see here. So in other words, we see no force pulling the water molecules up as we see in these water molecules here. So because of this, the net force for the water molecules on the surface is not 0. So there is a net force acting upon it. And this net force is going to be pulling the water molecules down. Now, because of this, the water molecules on the surface are actually going to start dragging or causing other water molecules to want to go into the water itself. And this is what produces a surface tension. Because remember, because the water molecules want to go down, it's also pulling other water molecules with it. But at the same time, other water molecules on the surface are preventing these water molecules from pulling them down. So all of these forces, these complex forces interacting with each other, are going to cause a surface tension to be produced. So the surface tension is basically a product of all these forces acting together. And the surface tension is going to be incredibly important when we're talking about the lungs. So in order to understand the practicality of surface tension, let's model an alveoli. So an alveoli can be modeled like a sphere. And inside the sphere, we not only have air, but we also have water lining the surface. So there is an air-water interface, and as a result, we have surface tension. So the surface tension is actually going to act to decrease the compliance of the alveoli. So in other words, it makes it harder for the alveoli to expand. So inside the alveoli, remember we have air, and this air is producing a pressure, and this pressure is going to cause the alveoli to expand if it's strong enough. So we can actually calculate how much pressure we need in order to maintain the alveoli at a certain volume. And we can do that through this equation. So from this equation, we see two main things. The first thing is that the pressure is directly related to the surface tension. So in other words, the greater the surface tension, the greater the pressure needs to be in order to maintain this sphere at a specific volume. And the second point is the radius. What we see here is that the pressure is inversely related to the radius. So in other words, the smaller the radius, the larger the pressure needed to keep the space inflated. So this is incredibly important when we're talking about the lungs. So the main thing that you should gather from this is three things. So the first thing is that surface tension decreases the compliance of the alveoli. So in other words, it makes it harder for the alveoli to expand. The second thing is that the pressure needed in order to maintain a certain volume is going to be directly related to the surface tension. So the greater the surface tension, the greater the pressure needs to be in order to keep the space inflated at a certain level. And then the third thing is the smaller the radius, the larger the pressure needed to keep the space inflated. So what does surfactant do? Well, surfactant is actually a detergent, usually phosphatidylcholine and other molecules. And what they do is they go to the surface of the water and they interact with the water molecules at the air-water interface. So what they do is they produce an upward force on these water molecules. So as a result, the force that is causing these water molecules to move down deeper into the water is reduced because you have these surfactant molecules that are pushing the molecules upward. So as a result of this, these surfactant molecules are going to decrease the surface tension. And when you decrease the surface tension, this increases the compliance, which makes it easier for the lung to expand in volume. So I hope this video helped you understand what surface tension is and surfactant is, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.